My dear light wanderers, greetings to you all. As you know, the presidential elections in the USA are underway. It won't be long now until the decision is made for the next 4 years. Goodbye. That rules in the USA. And whoever comes to power there politically, it definitely has an impact on global relations. And so people have always spoken about Donald Trump positively and negatively and accused him of this and that. And I just wanted to understand, come now logically, what kind of person he is when we analyze him through a karmic lens. So here you see his horoscope. Let's just get started. Before we begin, you should know that I am not into politics. I am not part of any political party, and I am completely neutral. And I don't want to speak for or against anyone. This is simply a karmic analysis. Here you see that he has his sun in Gemini. The North Node is conjunct. Uranus is conjunct. This indicates that with the sun in Gemini, he is adventurous. In the 11th house, one doesn't just look for adventure. One also seeks challenges. This means being extremely visionary and wanting to implement things that no one has done before. The 11th house is the house of Aquarius. And what it's suggesting is my self-realization. What I am should be manifested through the qualities of an Aquarian to come to the fore. It means I am visionary, I am future-oriented, I want freedom, I want independence. And I also want to be useful to others. That's all the 11th house. It's reinforced by the fact that Uranus is right next to it. Here you can see Uranus, the planet of Aquarius. Uranus in his own house, the house of Aquarius, means that he has a lot of ideas, wants to implement many ideas, and places great value on being meaningful to others. Aquarians hardly think of themselves. They want to be liberators for others. Like a liberator, someone who is rebellious, someone who wants to revolutionize the current systems and so on. And with my personal experience as an Aquarius, I know that for someone who having the Sun and Uranus close together, especially in the 11th house of Aquarius, indicates someone who likes to stir things up and make enemies because they, the Aquarian, want to change established systems. People are looking for new paths, and there are conservative forces everywhere that place too much value on traditions and simply don't want to understand that the world has changed. And change is simply the essence of life, and they resist it. And those who say everything should stay the same and just keep going, they don't like such a person. And then it becomes even stronger when we see here that the North Node is right next to the Sun. Astrologically and karmically speaking, the lunar nodes symbolize significant karmic lessons. The North Node is directly between the Sun and Uranus in the 11th house, which is very Uranian, very much in the Aquarian way. This means that he has taken on this task several times before, but he hasn't succeeded because, as I already mentioned, the conservative forces have resisted him, have prevented him from doing so. The only difference is in the last quadrant, meaning houses 10, 11, 12. That's where things come to fruition. Given this astrological setup, I can't imagine him not being the next president. So everything actually points towards it. So if I just look at the horoscope, I see that he has this whole setup. Sun, Uranus, Moon, Node, has the opposition Moon in Sagittarius, in the 5th house. This means that he places great value on equality. He is set on helping many people with the Moon in Sagittarius in the 5th house. One is very generous, wants to help others, wants to enable them to be self-sufficient. And one has a big heart for others with the Moon in the 5th house. And because the Moon is on the nodal axis, as you can see here below, it means that he set this lesson for himself, this challenge to be meaningful to many people, to bring wealth and fulfillment to many. And especially with Moon in Sagittarius in the 5th house, he has a heart that beats for international connections. That means Moon in Sagittarius is about living and letting live. That's what I see there, for international connections. That means having the Moon in Sagittarius stands for life and let live. This is what I see. And then I see Venus conjunct Saturn in Cancer. Venus in Cancer means that I am very sensitive, that I feel deeply. With Venus in the 12th house, I love being there for others. I am self-sacrificial, and especially in Cancer. That means I enjoy being there for others, not against others, but for them. I crave harmony a lot. And with Saturn on top of it, it means that if you're on this wavelength, you tend to attract some corrections from the outside. Boundaries are set from the outside. This means that with Saturn, in conjunction with Venus in the 12th house, he is determined to become ever more mature, calmer, more prudent, and full of life as he goes through life. So if this horoscope is correct, that it really is Donald Trump's horoscope, then I can say that it would be an enrichment for him personally. For the USA and the whole world, it would be a good thing if he really became president. Let's take a look at the current celestial alignments to see how likely it is that he will actually become the next president. So when I compare him to Harris, then it really is the better choice. Then we have here Pluto in Leo. Pluto is a very slow planet, so it affects generations. And Pluto in the 12th house, especially in Leo, means I am interested in creating a new order. I am interested in resolving old captivity. In the 12th house, they are resolved. Things that no longer exist, but new things emerge out of nothing in the 12th house. This means he carries a massive transformative power that he wants to fulfill. So with Pluto in the 12th house, one is not so much manipulative, but rather transformative. And if he were to try to be manipulative, he would lose a lot. With Pluto in the 12th house, if one tries to take advantage of others, it doesn't work out. You lose a great deal. Conversely, if you want to be there for others, then you gain a lot. Then we move on to Mars. Mars in the 1st house means I want to implement my own ideas. I find it hard to listen to others. I'm a fighter. I'm a pioneer. With Mars in the 1st house, in its own house, it means I'm the first to do something. I can't just do what everyone else does. I want to implement my own things, my ideas. And I am a leader. Mars in the 1st house means I am a leader. I don't like being subordinate to anyone. And that means I am a leader. That is to say, I'm not a whiner. I'm a problem solver. I'm someone who brings new ideas into the world and takes charge. And that's another hopeful sign that it would be good if he became president. You see, with Jupiter in the third house on Chiron, it also means that whatever I do, it brings in money. I do things, I embark on certain adventures and make money, but I also bring financial benefits to others. With Jupiter in the third house, it shows an understanding that by coming together, everyone benefits, particularly with Jupiter in Libra. Regarding Neptune, I've already mentioned that the Neptunian house, the 12th house, I've covered quite extensively. I can just add that he has Neptune square Mercury, and this confirms what I've said earlier. Mercury in Cancer means I am very sensitive, I feel deeply. My mental power from Mercury I use for matters of the heart. That means he's already a billionaire. He has everything. He doesn't necessarily have to become president now, but deep down, he wants to do something for others. So this is Mercury square Neptune, with Mercury being up here. In the 11th house, Aquarius style, this means that Mercury in the house of Aquarius signifies wanting to do something for others, wanting to liberate the slaves, aiming to ensure that equality prevails, fraternity, harmony, love, brotherly love, and so on. And if there's a square, Neptune also coming into play on the cusp between the second and third houses, it means that he has an inner intuitive guidance on what fits and what doesn't. And honestly, I must confess, from a karmic astrology standpoint, if this is indeed his horoscope, it's simply incredible. A wonderful personality, astrologically speaking. Regarding the karmic perspective, we can observe the current planetary configurations. Here, for example, let's focus on Mars, because it's in the first house, indicating a leader. Now, the question is whether he will become a leader or whether he will face obstruction. That's why I'm looking at Mars. Right now, I'm not exactly sure when. I guess it's in 2 weeks or something like that, or not much longer. As the presidential election approaches, if I move forward day by day here, you will see, if I do this, that Mars moves further and further from the 12th house here. Heading towards the first house always signifies a complete fresh start, especially when Mars enters its own house, indicating everything resets for a new phase of life begins. The leader comes into position. Logically speaking, that's how it is. And we mustn't forget, let's assume in about 2 weeks or whenever it is, I haven't really been following it, if he truly were to become president, even if he were to become president, it would still take a few weeks before he would officially take over the leadership of the USA. So let's assume about 4 weeks. If we progress day by day, keep an eye on Mars here. Mars is the planet of leadership. As we look forward, we can see that I need him to get to November, the 1st of November, the 2nd of November, 3rd of November, Sunday, 3rd of November. Important for everyone, but especially for him, because he has Mars in the first house. Mars is entering Leo. Currently, we have Mars in Cancer. This means that the Martian force cannot move forward. Cancer means hiding under the rocks, just like the crab does. And Mars in Leo signifies showing oneself in full glory and strength. This means for him that he displays himself in full glory and strength. The closer Mars gets to Leo, the stronger and more prominent he becomes. So, logically, one could pretty much guarantee that he's the winner. I just can't imagine, with these constellations, that he won't be the president of the United States. So if we say today is October 26th, if we look ahead 2 weeks, we'll see that Mars is increasingly moving toward Pluto. As Mars moves closer to Pluto in the 12th house, It signifies that there's a transformative energy within him, that he's about to change things, take charge, and usher in completely new times. And trust me, if there's a country that urgently needs it, it's the United States. That will come bursting out of him. And that means he will, and this is my wish for him and for Americans and for the whole world, become the president. It would totally surprise me if that doesn't happen. When you look at the appearances of Kamala Harris, how she speaks as if she's inebriated and hardly gives sensible answers, actually never giving answers, then if you say she's the opponent of Donald Trump and then compare it to what he puts forward, it would be really odd if he doesn't become the next president of the USA. And as I was saying, the further we go into the future, the more profound the boundary becomes. Mars entering Leo means that his strength is continually increasing. And the 12th house is the house of Neptune. Neptune was between the second and third houses. This signifies that his role, and this is also the reason why I believe he will be the next president, is because the 12th house is the house of Neptune. And Neptune was between the second and third houses. This means his role in society, and indeed Neptune's role in the whole world, will be redefined. So it means that the current Mars in the house of Neptune will support him in taking on a new definition. It means he's going to be the next president. And now, if we look to the future, Mars is very slow. And as we get to December, Mars is going retrograde. Mars is going retrograde, which means Mars will, a few years ago this happened, that Mars stayed unusually long in Leo, has persisted unusually long, which is something we've seen before. Exceptionally lengthy stays by Leo will likely be the case this time too, corroborating my earlier points. The issue with Mars in 12, since he has Mars in the first house, is that if I knew him, I'd advise. Here I hesitate. Going back to now, if I knew him personally, I would have advised him that with Mars in the 12th house, he can't really harness his martial energy for personal goals, but rather for higher Neptune-inspired objectives. He should exercise goodwill for all. Still, with Mars in Leo, it goes straight to the heart. Lion-hearted is Mars. He needs to be careful not to overexert himself, not to take too many things to heart. And with Mars moving towards Pluto, he should be more vigilant than last time to not fall victim to assailants. Because Mars in the 12th house means you can't control it. Things come at you from the outside, good or not so good. And I would advise him to take more precautions than usual. Here I see Venus now in the 4th house, but moving into the 5th house soon, which means his solar power, Sun, from the 5th house, will continue to increase. This means he will shine even more than now. And the thing is, the more one shines in public without it getting bigger, the more some things also get tougher. And I simply wish him the best. I can look into his system and say that he has a kind heart. And it would truly be an enrichment to the world if he becomes the next president of the United States. That's my wish for him, for the Americans, and for all of us. He is definitely the better choice than Harris. So that was just a quick rundown of the most important points. Let's hope for the best for all of us. And I hope that I've also brought you some joy with this, perhaps even to Donald Trump. And with that in mind, I wish you all the best. And remember that soon. Bye. By the end of January, in the next few days it will be announced, at the end of January, I'll be giving my very first Karmalogy course, which means Karmalogy Education. Module number 1, the basics, right here in Basel. It'll be published in the next few days, and then you can get your tickets. Wishing you all the best. I love you, and I'm here for you today, tomorrow, and every day, until the end of all things. All the best. Module number 1, the basics. I'll be giving it at the end of January, right here in Basel. It will be published soon, in the next few days, and then you can get your tickets. Wishing you all the best. I love you, and I'm here for you. Today, tomorrow, and every day to the very end. All the best.